Let's just, first of all, how long have you been waiting for this day?
I don't know that I would have ever said I was waiting for this day. 30 years ago, when I was assaulted, I thought I was the only one. First of all, classic victim mentality. Takes 3 decades to find out I wasn't, and by that time I had moved on. When 60-plus women came forward, I certainly never thought the man would see the inside of a courtroom. He was just too big an icon. And then that happened. We saw a trial. He was charged. Thank you, Andrea Constant, for making that happen. And then there was a mistrial. Didn't really think that he would be found guilty anyway, so that wasn't a big deal. And they went to a second trial. And I got to talk to the man, to the jury, in the second trial, in the courtroom. Never saw that coming. So there was kind of miracle number 2. And they return a guilty verdict. Didn't ever think that the Davids, the little Davids, all of us, would bring down Goliath. Never thought that would happen. So then, to have jail time, to see him let out in handcuffs, I don't know that that ever even dared cross my mind. I think self-protectively, you just want to say to yourself, hey, this has already been an amazing, amazing turn of events. I didn't dare hope for prison time. Do I think he deserves it? Of course. He is a criminal. I said that 3 years ago. But 3 years ago, I never would have believed it would actually happen.
And so this is kind of like you're talking about all these hurdles that
Right.
the case has had to overcome because you didn't even know if you'd ever be here.
Of course not. The very first woman who accused Bill Cosby did so 50 years ago. 50 years ago. It's been 5 decades, and it took over 60 people to make it such an overwhelming issue. No one could make it quiet. No one could make it go away. No one could buy the silence of 60-plus people. So that's what it took. My hope is that as we move forward as a society, this will be historic, and this will say, no more. No more. We don't care who you are. You do not treat other people this way. And I say people intentionally because once many of us went public, thanks to the internet, people can find us. And you'd be stunned at how many men reached out with their stories of sexual assault, and they have yet to tell a single soul because of the stigma attached. So that's kind of the next hurdle. 3 years ago, I continued to say this is the tip of the iceberg. People have no idea what an issue this is. And nobody picked up on it. And then the numbers started mounting, the momentum got going, #MeToo got kicked into play, and now I think people are beginning to see the scope of this crime.
You're hoping next time it won't take decades or it won't take dozens of women for somebody maybe in a more prominent position to be, convicted or to be, charges brought against them.
Exactly right. I think the fact that people are more apt to speak out now. The ice has been broken, and the idea that you just don't believe, first of all, that's not quite as accepted as it was. Right there, that conversation has changed. So hopefully more and more will be willing to take that step, speak their truth, tell their story, get it out there, And yes, eventually, I do believe that someone is innocent until proven guilty, but especially in this day where everybody's walking around with a camera in their hand, all you have to do is ask your friends, did you get this on camera? Did you get this on a video? There's just too much in the way of momentum for us to go backwards now.
What do you think about the actual sentence itself, the 3 to 10 years? It's a pretty big range.
It is a very big range, and I'm sure what ultimately happens is going to depend on his health. The man is 81 years old. I know that the defense argued that this would be unusually harsh. You can imagine what I think of that. I'm sure that even if it's 3 years, for me, the fact that there is prison time, I feel that's justice. It was very difficult to know that he was a guilty man, that he had been found guilty in a court of law by a jury, and he was under house arrest in a luxurious mansion, being waited on, having his family and friends around, having parties. That's not punishment. And I think I was concerned that if that was going to be the extent of it, house arrest, that's not punishment. So prison is a wake-up call. Obviously, he doesn't believe that he's done anything wrong to this day. There's no remorse. There's no acknowledgement of responsibility. Maybe this will give him a chance to really think about what he's done and talk about it, get some treatment, understand what he has done.
You talk about all the women who have come forward, but in many of these cases, the statute of limitations has passed. So although, you know, we had this one case that went all the way to the end, so many women won't get that day in court.
Which is why, at least I am so grateful to Andrea Constant. She is the warrior woman. She is the one who said, my career could be destroyed by this move, but this is unacceptable. And she was able to speak her truth within that statute of limitations. It is why I worked so hard with a fellow Cosby accuser, Beth Ferrier, here in Denver, to get the Colorado statute of limitations for sexual assault and rape extended. We had hoped to abolish it completely, but we did get it extended from 10 years to 20 years. Even that will help some people come forward. If you have any doubts at all that you have been assaulted, get it on the record, get it reported, and then you can worry about, do I really want to go through this process? Do I really want to take this to court? Do I really want to tell my story? You can make those decisions later. Get it reported so you have the option and it is in your control.
I mean, this has been such an incredibly long journey for you and all these other women.
You know who's really, it's been a long journey for those detectives in Pennsylvania. When Andrea first came forward with her story, that's when the investigation started. I have no idea how many man-hours. I bet you millions. By the time you multiply how many people worked to find the truth, the man-hours and the dedication and the determination of the people who finally brought this man to justice, that's a journey right there. Andrea Constant, her life was turned upside down. That's been a journey. For me personally, 30 of the last 33, 34 years, depending on how you count months, I spent moving on, probably a little bit in denial, probably just putting one foot in front of the other. That's what you do. So it doesn't feel like my battle really started until I came forward and the name calling and the nasty emails, that started for me. That was the battle. Before then, it was private. So I feel like I got off easy. I had 30-something years and a really good life before that.
Anything else that you want people to know who might be watching this?
I think it's remarkable, the timing of this sentencing and what is happening with our Supreme Court nominee right now. I don't know if there's divine intervention going on here, but it feels like history is repeating itself, and I'm shocked and disappointed that it's being made into a political thing. This doesn't have anything to do with your political party or lack thereof. This is a crime against a human being. And Kavanaugh is innocent until proven guilty in our country. And we need to listen to these women. It's not an either or, it's a both. I think what this case has proven with Bill Cosby is that no one is above the law. No one. I do believe that we spent decades not being there, and now it's changed. So this is huge. This is hopefully a little bit of a something, what's the phrase you want, a sign of things to come. I think we can have somebody innocent until they're proven guilty, but we must listen to the other side. You cannot just rush that appointment through. You need to let justice take its course.
Fantastic. Do you have anything else?
I'm sure when my brain clears, I'm going to have I think...
Probably still trying to process it a little bit.
I am, because I have been downtown ever since this all happened, and you know, I'm sorry about the phone. I thought I silenced it. I think, yeah, I think personally, I will tell you this. When I first saw him being let out in handcuffs, the part of me that's been an active part of this whole case, the part of me that came forward to support Andrea and the 60 other women who were being lambasted, obviously cheered at this internally. The part of me that absolutely adored that man and grew up with Jell-O pudding and Mr. Pepsi American Guy and Fat Albert and his comedy albums before Dr. Huxtable ever became a thing. I adored this man. And this is so bittersweet because although Cosby and his camp will say this is our fault, he destroyed what should have been a brilliant legacy. He self-destructed. And maybe somewhere out there, somebody else who has that kind of position will think twice and recognize, yeah, you too will be held accountable. It is a bittersweet day. It's a victory for anybody who wonders if they should come forward. Hopefully this will say, yes, it is worth it. And it's a tragedy because of what has happened to that man and his legacy.